Aspen Waite Radio.
Right, we mentioned at the top of the show we couldn't wait for our guest this morning, and I'm delighted to say that Dr. Mick Donegan joins us now. Very good morning to you, Mick.
Oh, hi, good morning. Hi.
Now, we were so excited to talk to you because you run the charity SpecialEffect, which helps to develop and supply adaptive technology to people with disabilities, and it allows them to access communication tools and play video games in a way that nothing else does. And I know that I haven't done it justice by introducing it like that, but I'm gonna first of all let you introduce it much better than I did.
No, actually, that'll do very nicely. I set up a charity so that we could do things with technology that people with severe physical challenges really wanted. And one of the big things was playing video games, because that was something, there was no specialist charity in the UK who were doing that, and they were desperate to join in because it's very difficult to be able to play football or ride a bike or whatever for people with severe disabilities. But being able to play a video game on a level playing field is something that I wanted to help them do for a variety of reasons. And we do other things as well. We do work with people. We do not just video games, but we also help people in intensive care. And in Bristol, for example, Southmead Hospital, we work in intensive care there, helping patients who've had perhaps a very severe stroke and maybe can only move their eyes, and we'll do our best to pick up that eye movement so they can use that eye movement to control the television or write an email or make a Skype call or play a YouTube video. So we use technology in a variety of ways. It's what people with disabilities want to be able to do with technology. We do our best to help them, yeah.
So you set this up in 2007, and you were working at a special needs school in Birmingham at the time, and parents would constantly ask if you had any ideas for maybe accessible extracurricular activities for children with disability. Is that when this idea came to you, and when was that the moment that you thought this is missing from the world? There's something missing here.
Absolutely. I'll go back a bit further than that. When I was 5 and had a young cousin who had a disability, and he wanted to say my name, which is Michael. And no matter how hard he tried, because of his learning difficulty and physical difficulty, the best that he got was Mabu. And I knew in his head it was Michael he wanted to say, but that was all that came out. And I just realized, hang on a minute, there's a gap between what's in someone's head and what they actually are capable of achieving. And that's what started me on the road to using assistive technology to help bridge that gap, to help fill that gap between what somebody with a severe disability could do, what their potential, and what technology might be able to help them achieve. So that's where it started. I was helping kids in a school in Birmingham as deputy head there to be able to use technology, to be able to improve their maths and be able to do artwork, etc. And then I moved to a national centre in Oxfordshire. I was deputy director there, where we help kids and university students to be able to access learning, and also to be able to communicate your sort of Stephen Hawking speech output device, for example. We were providing that kind of device to help young people of all, of anyone in school education, to be able to communicate more effectively. And I just decided, it was only when at the end of assessments, the parents say, well, it's absolutely great that they're able to do their maths better and that they're able to write English and communicate. But what are they going to communicate about? They haven't got anything to. They don't play with friends. They haven't got anything to say. They can't have banter with their brother and sister if they beat them at something, if they can't play with them. So I just thought, hang on a minute, there's a big gap here. They just wanted it. Basically, the parents said, what can they do at 3:30? When they get home from school, how can they play with the grandparents, brothers and sisters? And it's lovely. I just thought, right, I'll take a big leap into the void here and try and set up a charity that's designed to help children with video games, children with disabilities play video games, which is a bit of a challenge because the general sort of feeling, certainly at that time, about video games was that it was just generally bad for you. And there I was setting up a charity that was going to enable children to do something that wasn't good for them. So, but amazingly, a big part of what we've done is to just try and show what the positive side is. And if you've seen, children able to play with grandma and granddad, games like, drafts, or just join in with the Wii controller we started with. There's a lad, for example, who had a spinal injury, so he was desperate while he was in hospital, he was desperate to play a game. And if you remember the Wii controller, you sort of waved it around. Maybe you guys are too young to remember that, but the Wii controller, you waved it to be able to control the computer. You moved it around. This lad, he could only move his head. So we actually, in those early days, we actually sewed a Wii controller onto a little hat for him, and he used it brilliantly. If the
Wow.
motivation was there. He was playing table tennis and everything. So no matter how severe a physical challenge someone has, we try to get them playing. And honestly, being able to play, if you are ill or you're injured or you have disability, it's so therapeutic. It's so good for you. It's something that you can really do as well as anyone else, despite no matter how severe your disability is. So that's why I started it, just to give people a way to join in. With
That's
everybody else.
wonderful. That is just
Yeah.
so wonderful to hear. And so what kind of technology, you talked a little bit about in the
Yeah.
early days, the Wii controller. What
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
technology do you use for different users? Can you give us some examples of different things
Yeah,
you use?
yeah. Basically, we look at what the person can do, what they're good at, and it might be that there might be, say if someone is paralysed, for example, then it might be if they're paralysed, say halfway up their spine, they might find it they can move their arms, but find it very difficult to move their fingers, and they can speak and move their heads. So that's a lot to work with. So we make the most of that, and instead of using a joypad, it might be that we'd be able to use buttons, a big joystick, for example, for one hand to be able to use speech. And so we capitalize on whatever. A lot of children, for example, with cerebral palsy, it might be for them a big joystick and some buttons. Instead of being able to press a standard joypad, they can't do that. So instead of that, will provide them a big joystick and some buttons in the place where they can press easiest. Sometimes they'll use their feet, sometimes they'll use their heads. Believe you me, or somebody's elbows. Believe you me,
Wow.
kids will find a way and they'll learn it. There are so many people that we work with. They are far better gamers than I ever have been or ever will be. They just really, really want to do it, and as I say, they're just highly motivated. So yeah, it's whatever they can. And sometimes it might, if there's a higher injury, they might only be able to move their heads. Well, we can pick up their head movement. So if you imagine as you move your head, you can move a point around the screen and be able to select things that way. And also we do a lot of work with gaze tracking, with eye control. So if someone can only move their eyes, and there are a lot of people whose the best part of their body, or the only part of their body that they can move, is their eye movement, and we pick up on that as best we can, particularly if they've had a severe stroke. As I say, some of the patients in Southmead might have had a very severe stroke, and they can't speak, they've got a trachea, so they're lying there, obviously, staring at the ceiling, and we just give them a way to be able to take control. We'll put a little computer up here. They'll be able to look at. There's a little camera that picks up their eye movement. We'll set up an interface that enables them to be able to, as I say, do what they want. Whatever it is. So some might, let's say it might be YouTube. Certainly, it's communication. We worked with a guy. Actually, he sent me an email to a WhatsApp message today. A guy that we worked with at Southmead Hospital in Bristol, and the first thing, he'd had a scaffolding accident, and so he sadly he lost the use of his lower arms, and he when he was in intensive care, he got a couple of little children, a couple of twins, babies. So his wife couldn't come in because of the risk of infection, because they didn't want him to get an infection. Basically, the most important thing to him was, first of all, two important things. One is to control the television, because he wanted to be able to just put the channel on that he wanted to watch. So we set him up with a way to do that with eye gaze and an infrared connection. But the other thing was he wanted to be able to connect with his wife using email. So, and we set him up with a way to write, and it was some really sort of heart-wrenching stuff, that he wrote to his wife to be able to communicate to us. So it's whatever people want to do, we'll set them up with a way to do that. And it can be such an important part. The people at the hospital are doing a brilliant job setting people up for their physical recovery. And what we do is we just give them a way to help them along their psychological, if you like, recovery. Something to do and take control. Anyway, yeah, there you are.
We've talked so much about how you're providing this amazing service to people. What's your reaction when you get to see people's eyes light up and you get to see them using the technology for the first time? It must make everything you do just seem so worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm welling up just thinking about it. It really is. It's sort of the sort of thing that makes you shoot. Even at a time when I really should have probably retired a little while back. But I actually, that's why I shoot out of bed every morning, to actually see that kind of reaction. It really is. When you sort of provide the key to enable that to happen, it's a great moment. And the sort of the quotes that that I mean, there's a girl with a learning difficulty and cerebral palsy, and who found it quite difficult to speak, but she was desperate to be able to play. I think it was a game called Disney Infinity, and we found her to be able to play it. And what she said was, "I'm now a gamer," and that was just so. It was like it's like somebody had opened the gates to this special place where everybody else was, but she wasn't, and she was joining in. It's to me, it's all it is. It's all about it's all about inclusion, making sure
Mm.
that everybody can join in really. And as I say, whatever anyone says about video games, it's a great way for people with mobility challenges, particularly right now, during the pandemic, not able to get out and about. They can meet and play with people all over the world through technology, and that's a really big deal. Yet again, they're not at a disadvantage because they can't easily get out and about. So it means a lot, and particularly moving a guy who with a progressive condition. He hadn't played FIFA. He used to play football with his older brother. He hadn't been able to play FIFA for about 15 years. FIFA's a football game, and it's a really popular game. And he used to play against his brother because he couldn't play the real game, and they had a great time together. Because of his muscle weakness, he couldn't play anymore. And we, after 15 years of him not being able to play any games, or do anything with his brother, play anything at all with his brother, engage with his brother, we found him a way to be able to play FIFA again. And he actually wrote in an email, "Thank you for giving me my life back." I mean, how amazing is that? So it's a big deal. Yeah, yeah, it's a big deal.
That's,
Yeah,
yeah, incredible. And your charity, Special Effect, have worked with companies like Microsoft and
yeah,
Logitech, and obviously
yeah,
EA,
yeah,
makers of incredible
yeah,
game FIFA.
yeah, yeah.
How have things changed over the years? Are these big companies taking more notice of the
Yeah.
changes that they need to make now?
Yeah. I've just been on a call with Unity. In fact, they're the people who actually provide a lot of software for a lot of the games. In fact, and I'm giving a talk there online next week, for example. So there's a huge amount of interest. We helped develop an interface along with Microsoft, Xbox, that enables you to plug these kinds of switches in and these kind of special joysticks in, so that you can actually, plug the right things into the game. And what we also do is we give companies advice on how to change the software so that it lets more people play. There's a little guy, for example, who there's a game that you can play at a really high level. It's a racing game called Forza, and it's very, very quick, and very competitive. But actually, what they've done is they've found lots and lots of ways of assists that enable far more people to be able to play. And there's one little guy who's been watching his dad for years. He's about 12 or 13 and loves racing. And he's able to join in just by pressing a switch. All he can do is reach and press a switch. And he's on a racing line, that green line down the road. He's able to follow that so he won't crash into anything. And if he just takes his hand off the pedal, the car just off the button, car slows down. He puts his hand on the button again, away he goes. And it may take him an hour to get around the circuit, but he has a ball, and he'll gradually improve. And over time, will include another switch and another switch, maybe get him steering with the special joystick. So it's a way that they can progress and engage more.
Amazing. So
Yeah,
if there's anyone listening who thinks that Special Effect could help them or
yeah,
someone they know, how
yeah.
can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, if they just go to there's like a page on the website, Special Effect website. I put the logo at the back there. I don't know if you can see it, but basically Special Effect. It's all one word, Special Effect. We don't charge anything for what we do, what we do is we'll do an assessment. At the moment, they're online. It's like a Zoom call that we'll do to do the assessment. Often it might be face to face. They can come to our centre, which is sort of near Oxford, for an assessment, or we can come out to them anywhere in the UK. And basically, we will do an assessment. If it's a physical reason why they can't play a video game, it's a physical reason, then we will do our best to enable them to do that. They need to know the game that they want to play, because they need to kind of have that motivation. If they know the game they want to play, we will do our very best to help them do it. We'll loan the equipment, and once they're on our books, once they're on our caseload, they can stay on it for as long as they like, because people with disabilities, as do all of us, they'll change throughout their lives, and their needs will change, games will change, and technology changes over. So all the time they'll need updating. There are kids that we started off with sort of one joystick and a couple of buttons who've now got two big joysticks and a whole table full of buttons that they're able to access them, just because they're growing and developing and motivated and to do it. So if they do, and if they know anybody who's had a traumatic injury or stroke, and they're in say in intensive care, then by all means, yet again, get in touch with us, whichever part of the country they're in, and if the hospital are happy to have us in to help that person, yet again, it'll be free, and we'll loan the technology to make sure that it's the right technology for them before they fundraise or whatever to get something of their own. And sort of while I'm at it, there's another project that I'll just mention that we're helping. So we do the work in intensive care in hospitals for communication, etc. We do the access to games. There's another project as well that we call Bubble Busters, which started because a little guy got in touch with us with cancer, who said he got in touch with me. He said, "Dear Dr. Mick, I'm just getting in touch to say you're doing absolutely great work. I've got cancer and I'm having treatment in and out of hospital. Haven't been to school for 2 years, and if I didn't have video games, I'd go mad." And that was it. Keep up the great work, Sam. And that was it. So I arranged a call with him and his mom to find out more, because I'd seen that there's this little kind of robot that you can get that can take the place of a child in the classroom, and so basically we loaned him one of those so that the little robot could be in school. And basically you control the robot on an app, or on a mobile, or on an iPad, and you can look round, talk to your mates. You can, if you want to just put your hand up, you make the head flash, and so the teacher can see that you want to say something. You have to behave yourself just like any other child, and speak when you're spoken to. But what's great about that, and what's different to just using a laptop, is a video call, is that you're there. The child is actually there in the classroom, and the response of the other kids, they'll actually take that little robot out to play with them, at the playground, and carry on chatting with them. They are actually part of the class, and they've taken the little kid to to see a film, and as well. So it's as I say, it's for children with an immunodeficiency, and that means if you've got cancer, you particularly, we're all worried about catching something at the moment, I know, but if you have cancer, then it's particularly important that because your immune system is down, so it's particularly important that you don't catch anything. So a lot of these kids are either at home or in hospital, lonely, for a very, very long time. So this is just a way of engaging with other kids. So that one's called Bubble Busters. So if anyone knows, that's a very long intro, but if anyone knows a child, someone of school age who is unable to go to school because of an immunodeficiency, of cancer or any other reason why they've got an immunity issue, get in touch, and we'll see if we can help out by loaning one of these if they'd like help. So those are the sorts of things that we do. Yeah.
It's incredible, and we absolutely don't mind you telling these stories, because they're just wonderful to listen to. And you mentioned it there, but if you want to find out more about the special stories, that some of the ones that you've told us, and more, specialeffect.org.uk/UK who we helped, and please do, because I certainly will be after this to find out a little bit more. It's been just an absolute pleasure to have you on the show this morning. Thank you so much for coming on. We wish you all the best with SpecialEffect. You're just doing an incredible thing, and it's actually quite emotional just listening to the stories.
Yeah.
Really
Well,
is.
yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks very much for inviting me. It's a great way to start the day. Thank you.
Aspen Waite Radio.